What does Andor succeed and fail at, as both the show itself and separately as a piece of Star Wars media? That is the question we're going to be talking about today. Welcome back to Strictly Casual. My name is Ryder. I'm joined today by Vincent and a very special guest, Hannah from the Rayside show. I was gonna say the Hannah Rayside show from that Rayside show. No, we'll be getting into a special conversation today, and yeah, let's go ahead and get into it.
Yeah, so I guess we can start with that too. Is the general thoughts on the show when you go online is fairly positive, I would say, because we are in such areas online on social media that love Star Wars generally and love pop culture. So I think most of what I've seen personally is people loving it, but we do also have the data that Star Wars Andor is one of Disney Plus's lowest viewership for a Star Wars show too, which is very interesting, even though it has critical praise and acclaim for the most part. But Hannah, what did you feel about the show as a whole?
Yeah, overall, I think it was a really positive step in expanding how Star Wars is expressed. I found just the cinematography, the production style of the whole show was quite different, and I think for the past couple of years, ever since we've jumped into live action TV show of Star Wars, which is still quite a new concept. Like, it was only 2019, Mando season 1 dropped, so it's still fairly new. But you know, Mando, Boba Fett, very much had the same kind of style. Even Kenobi had, you know, we can tell the volume. I know that was a very big conversation for a lot of people. You can tell that it's filmed in the volume. Had that kind of narrowness maybe of the production, but Andor felt just really cinematic. Really, I think the use of location shooting really came out well, and it really worked for this show, and you felt like you were on complete other planets when we were on Coruscant and Aldani, and you know, you really felt like this is a whole entire planet we're on. It's not just a different background now kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate the production of this whole show. In terms of the actual story and what we got from the journey of Andor, I think I'm a little bit in that boat of it was good. It was good. And I don't think it's gonna really hit my favorites of Star Wars in terms of, you know, shows or movies. It was really solid. I think the characters in the show were really well thought out, and I think that they were well portrayed. But there was something that I couldn't quite put my finger on that I didn't fully personally connect with. But I know it's a very subjective thing, because I can kind of objectively be like, this is such a well-made show.
Sure.
But subjectively, not my top thing to go to as a Star Wars fan.
Do you feel that this was lacking something as a piece of Star Wars media itself that you usually gravitate towards?
That is such a good question, because to identify what it's lacking, you kind of have to have your own list of what Star Wars needs to be Star Wars.
Yeah.
And
each person.
right. And I have no idea what that is. And it really wasn't until this show where I was like, oh, I have these like subconscious standards of what should be in Star Wars. You know, should it be the Force? Should it be Jedis? Should it be lightsabers?
Right.
Should it be, you know, wars, giant wars? Like, it's really interesting. And I think I'm still in that process of putting my finger on it. But in terms of lacking, I found it lacked a little bit of, this sounds odd, but I want to say the word magic. This very eccentric, real imagination, creative, like that's really popping. You know, that every Star Wars movie, like, yes, it's a space thing, but there's always something quite grand about the magic of where we're going and all the technology we use. I think maybe the Aldani episode had the most of that for me.
Sure.
The Aldani, like the heist episode.
Oh,
where,
yeah.
You know, the whole...
It felt
the
Rogue
storm
One
thing
style.
over the storm. Yeah, right? Like real heist, just, you know, and just the CGI. I don't even know how they did it.
Oh,
but just
yeah.
The meteor shower thing.
Oh,
It's
that
gorgeous,
was incredible.
yeah.
And it's that, I feel like it's just in those moments where it's like it really does something to your imagination, I find, and it's those moments that kind of take you back to kind of a kid watching Star Wars almost. You're like, wow, that looks so damn cool. Like, you just have that wow.
I think you hit a good point right there too, is that I think Star Wars has always been like something I looked up at in a sense. Like even as a kid, like Star Wars, it's this huge, like grandiose, like thing that you just watch,
Yeah.
and it's like it pours over you, that sort of thing. Whereas
Yeah,
this doesn't have that magical feeling, like you said, where I'm not looking up to these characters, let's say. I am watching these characters in a world that I love, but I don't necessarily love everybody. There's like Cassian Andor's kind of anti-hero-esque, I would
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
with some of his motives and actions. So there's that aspect, but I think I found those like magical moments inside of the characters, and when they have those changes to be like, oh wow, like I didn't expect you to do that. And those character moments were magical to me. Like the prison 3 episodes was like my favorite for
Yeah.
sure.
Loy.
They're able to build relationships with these characters in just a couple episodes, and it pays off so well to me when they have the entire escape sequence and just what they all go through. And I found like magic in those moments, but it's different magic than The Last Jedi, which is one of my favorite of the sequels for sure, where the idea is like anybody can be a Jedi and anybody can have powers, anybody can be successful, and just like really positive themes. But those are very different themes than the themes that Andor's going for. But you have to be open to the idea that like some characters can have different motivation than others, but you can still connect with them in different ways. And I
Yeah.
don't think I was ready for that, to be
Oh,
honest,
yeah,
in
okay.
the show.
Yeah,
It's like an adjustment period. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys were talking about some great things. Here's the question that I was thinking about this whole time is, are we getting too many answers? Because like you were talking about, Hannah, for me too, Star Wars is very fantasy and whimsical about the Force and laser swords, if you will, lightsabers, and the beautifulness of the Jedi and the evil, the light and the dark, right? That's to me Star Wars. So when we're seeing like how the Force works and like how the Death Star was built, we were literally watching Cassian Andor build the screws for the Death Star. To see them actually building it added so much more like context to a lot of things. And it's like, do we need all this context of how the rebellion was funded? Like for me, it was Han Solo and a couple rapscallion people going against the Empire. But now we're watching the stress of the economical state of how they funded the rebellion. I'm like, this is so serious. And I'm like, I don't know how I should feel about this. Like, do we need this? And I think it's fascinating that they make a whole show about it. It's also serious about war states and what people go to, right? Like they become bad people, like Andor kind of is, So
Yeah.
You learn your friends in this time.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and who are your enemies? Yeah.
On a production standpoint, like not as a piece of Star Wars media, I guess, but it's always connected because inherently Andor is Star Wars. But I think the volume is a huge piece of this. I thought I have volume fatigue big time with everything that Marvel's done recently, and I mean the last Disney or Star Wars shows as well. Like you can tell when the trailer for Andor came out, I was not like super excited for Andor until the first trailer because I was like, oh my goodness, this isn't like we're throwing in a random show to hit a quota here. It feels like there's a lot more care that's going into it than I expected. That feeling stayed true to me throughout the entire show while I was watching it, that like somebody, Tony Gilroy, who's like the showrunner, you can tell he was very passionate about this and wanted to make this instead of, oh, we already have this famous character, let's try to make a show around it. Like Obi-Wan. I was a fan of Obi-Wan, the show, and I loved the moments we got with Anakin, or like Hayden and Ewan at the end. But I felt like I connected to the story of Andor more than I connected to the story of Obi-Wan, even though I think Obi-Wan might have higher highs and lower lows. I find myself like questioning, like, I'm no writer, okay? Other people, like these Star Wars guys, they're hired, they're paid to write these shows and stuff. And God bless them for it. But like I found myself in Obi-Wan being like, I don't really know why they did that with this character. Andor, I felt like that was balanced more because we were just following like Cassian through his experiences instead of like, we don't really know what they're building towards in Andor. Like Andor kind of ends with a half resolution instead of like, I'm not hoping Cassian meets another character that we already know or something. Like I don't have an expectation that we're going to get like a cameo thrown in or something like that. And that was relieving for me, honestly, in a piece of Star Wars media.
I found myself doing the same thing where I don't like to compare, but we naturally are comparing these shows, right? I enjoyed the Kenobi story more than the Andor story, but I preferred the Andor production value more. So it's like, what if Kenobi, or even something like Boba Fett, if Boba Fett had the production and writing as Andor did, which I think was superior in a show, and it's like, I feel like each of these shows have quite a strong point in one area.
Mhm.
And then I'm like, what if these like, they just, every part of the production, the writing, the storyline
Yeah.
can all be really strong, because I feel like it goes up and down for each
Yeah.
show.
Yeah, as a story arc too. So I think that's something that they kind of, it felt different about this versus other Star Wars shows and other Disney Plus series, is the little arcs that they had. They had little 3-episode arcs in their 12 episodes, which, you know, now we can pick apart our favorite arcs and like what moments did we like, but does this work as a show separate from Star Wars? Now, did we like the arcs? What was our favorite? Like, what was something for me? It's tough because that heist felt like Rogue One, right? And then, but the prison, that was for me the start of Cassian being like, I need to join the rebellion, especially the ending with Andy Serkis finally getting his recognition as an actor. But what do we think about the arcs? The kind of arcs, what was our favorite? What was something we noticed about them?
I also agree that the prison was my favorite too. Like, it's so contained yet also like a big spectacle, and I thought that was balanced so nicely. It's so contained a little bit, and they built so much lore of the prison. Like, Cassian is thrown in here when other people have already spent so much time in here, and you learn how oppressive this place is, this like work camp basically that they have day in day out, and they built so much around it. Is the timer with the days, the floor that zaps you kind of thing. Like, there's so many little details in there that built up to make it feel like so believable. Like, oh, he's really in there, and there's like really high stakes here just for 3 episodes. And that was phenomenal, while he's carrying all this like guilt for, you know, leaving people on the planet name is escaping me. Ferrix. Yeah.
Ferrix.
Okay.
Yeah.
For leaving everybody on Ferrix. And there's so much going into it and onto it that is like compounded, and he doesn't even get to like think about that because he's thinking about how to get out of the prison. No, like all at the same time, and it feels so heavy.
Yeah, the arc style for this show I found really fascinating because, yeah, like we're saying, I feel like this is the first live action that has done the arc style. I mean, like, there's definitely close connections between, like, Mando episodes are episodic, but they're all in the same story kind of thing.
Yeah.
and
Yeah, they're
Boba,
contained.
yeah. And it's like some of them are kind of like this, but this was very, very clear arcs. Like, it's very, we're on the same place, destination for 3 episodes, and then we completely somewhere else for 3 episodes. And I think it worked. I think it was quite a successful method to use, because obviously it was quite successful in the Clone Wars. Like,
Right.
people love to talk about their favorite Clone Wars arc, and you talk about, oh yeah, you know, the Umbar arc was like the most amazing thing ever, or the Siege of Mandalore was the most amazing arc ever.
Right.
So I think it's something that does work for Star Wars very well, because essentially those 3 arcs is a Star Wars movie, in my opinion. Like, that really, if you cut them all together and put them in a 2-hour package, it's a Star Wars movie. And I think that worked well for Andor. It was in its favor, this arc style, and I really enjoyed it.
It seems like for us, what we've been talking about, it seems like Star Wars is changing, right? Star Wars has been evolving now, and they're kind of experimenting with genre, right?
Always is.
Yeah, it always is. And so for the future now, we had Skeleton Crew, we have Acolyte, and it seems like we're going to be focusing. Acolyte could be like the darkest take of Star Wars potentially, and Skeleton Crew is focusing on children. It seems like they're trying to experiment with genres here and try out new things. And I guess what we know as Star Wars will forever change, right? Because
It's interesting here too, because I feel like Andor, while anybody could watch it, it's not geared towards the same audience that some of the movies would be. I think I think as a kid I would have a hard time watching Andor or being interested in Andor. I'm so like captivated by the lightsabers and the spaceships and everything like that, right? Where this is a lot less of that. It's a lot smaller scope, I guess, of a story. But Skeleton Crew, that seems, from what we know so little about it. We know so little about it. We did get more information, I think, this week, that they said they were like who the villain was going to be or something like that. I don't know.
I haven't seen.
It's a sister.
Yeah, actually, I heard. I think it's only a rumor at the moment,
Yeah,
but I think
okay.
it's a rumor that it's about the Night Sisters could be showing up in some form or way. So I
Right.
don't know, but it makes sense. Like, wait, is it? I already forget. Is this for Skeleton Crew? Was this?
Yeah, for Skeleton Crew.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
so.
Which I get confused because I feel like the Night Sisters should show up in Acolyte, maybe. But,
Right.
oh well, if whatever. Night Sisters are cool. They're a cool group over there. So I don't mind which show that's in. But yes, I know that rumor you're talking about. Yeah.
So I think the point I'm going for is just I think that Star Wars is so huge, and it has fans from of all ages.
Yeah,
of all ages. Like my dad, for instance, who I watched Obi-Wan with. Like I rewatched it with him to show him, because he's a huge fan of the prequels as well as like the original trilogy, and he gravitated towards like certain pieces of Obi-Wan, and then there's other stuff where he was like totally uninterested in it, right? But he would consider himself a Star Wars fan. Whereas Andor, he was really into most of it as well, and then didn't care about other things. And so I think people are really picky and choosy. Obviously, we're spoiled. We're spoiled, and we have a lot of Star Wars to love, and there's so much to love about Star Wars. But I think that Star Wars and Disney are going to try to make things for a lot of different audiences, because they have so many eras to tell stories from, so many characters to choose from, not even just choose from, but to like create stories for new characters. And that's exciting for me. I can't wait for the next 10 years of Star Wars, whatever we're going to get.
Hannah, is there anything that excites you about the future of Star Wars, as well as what you want to see?
I think going forward for Star Wars, it's all about diversifying, and I think that's the process we're doing. Because even though, you know, at the start of this video, I said, oh yeah, a bit like, Andor's alright, but it's like I can't express how much I appreciate how different it is.
Yeah,
it's like I don't actually mind that I'm a bit on it, because it's like it's so good that it was a different style and a different kind of influence it had on fans. And yeah, going forward, I really hope that all these shows that we are getting, Ahsoka and Acolyte, especially Acolyte, I really hope Acolyte is again just going to be this like different take, this different flair and flavor into Star Wars. It's going to be dark, serious, somber, you know, maybe it's action packed, but it's very, you know, subtle or something. I really hope that takes us in a new direction as well. But one thing I got really excited by this year was the Tales of the Jedi. And I kind of I keep forgetting that happened, and then I'll just randomly remember, oh my god, we got these 6 amazing episodes that were like prequel animation Star Wars. That's so cool. So I think in terms of something I want to see more is probably more animation like Tales of the Jedi. I think that kind of concept could go forward really well to be like Tales of the Sith or Tales of the Bounty Hunters.
Yeah.
You know, Tales of the Underworld. They could really explore, like, there's so many characters in Star Wars. We could really explore so much more with just this kind of short form animation show like Tales. Yeah, I'm just ready for each show kind of to bring something different to the table, a different perspective and feel to Star Wars media.
I just want them to create live action of those Old Republic CGI trailers. Make those live action, I'll be happy. Like, I want different eras. I'm done with this era. You know what I mean? I've had so much.
What era? What era?
From episode 1 to episode 9. Like, I'm all that. We got, and we have the gap filled in for everything. And I think Acolyte's the one that they're shifting. They're like, we're going back. And I'm like, finally.
Yeah.
We could see 200 years back. Like,
you got to read the books, right? Or you got to get on the High Republic.
The books too, dude. Every time Vincent always talks about these books, and I know there's a lot of great lore in there that I need.
It's not even just lore; they're just rich with like
story and good
stories. Like I love them. Great characters, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we appreciate you hanging out with us with this conversation about Andor and everything surrounding like what Star Wars is and is going to be. Hannah, where can the people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube at The Raeside. That's RAE side. And it's the same over on Twitter and Instagram, all at The Raeside. I have a Star Wars variety show where we make, create, cook, paint, so many different Star Wars things every week. It's a live stream, and it's a good time. It's good fun, and it's good chaotic fun as well. If you like chaos, then yeah, come to the channel.
If you like Star Wars content, you are in good hands in The Raeside. Seriously, like, awesome content, and we were like so excited to be able to work with you on a video. It's just tons of fun.
This has been amazing. I was stoked when Ryder messaged me. I was like, oh my gosh. I texted my partner straight away. I was like, oh my god, Strictly Casual just messaged me.
Oh, we were just as excited.
Yeah.
Catch you next time on Strictly Casual.